All right, what up, everybody? Morrison III here with another episode of the third podcast. If you guys have been following us, then you know that this is episode 2 of season 4 of this podcast. Insert hand claps there. And it's also a very special episode because we have our second ever female woman guest on the show, which says a lot about the show. We probably need to have more women on the show, but we're really excited to have this queen on here, Queen Arika Pierce. That's Arika with an A, which I think is the dopest way you could possibly spell Arika. Arika with an A and a K. Arika is a Millennials Success Strategist, and she reached out to be on the podcast, and I couldn't be more excited because she don't know this, but I was being lazy to reboot the podcast and reboot season 4, and I needed some motivation. And here she came with her big smile, like, hey, listen, I'm trying to be on this podcast. I got some things I want to talk about. And we're super excited to have you, Arika. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. And wow, I didn't realize I was just the second woman. So this is, we got to do something more about that, Art. Okay.
Yeah, and the first woman was my niece. My niece does skincare and stuff. She's getting started in entrepreneurship, and I threw her on the podcast. She was the first one. Actually, I had my girl on too, but I don't be counting her because she be like low key on. Anytime I can't get a guest, I'll be like, babe, hop on this. Yeah, hop on it. But she counts. So I guess you're the third. But yeah, thank you so much for being on the show. How you doing today?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk to you.
Yeah, excellent. So real quick, as always, I mean, I could give you an intro, but it's going to be whack. Nobody can introduce you the way you can introduce yourself. So, tap into my audience. If they don't know anything about you, tell them everything they need to know. You got 2 minutes.
Okay, 2 minutes. All right. So I am a Millennial Success Strategist. So what is that, right? That means that I really focus on trying to make sure that millennials can be the best versions of themselves, especially professionally as well as personally. First of all, what is a millennial? People always ask what age.
I was just about to ask. Like, I'll be using it loosely.
Right. Exactly.
Tell me what it means.
So millennials are between age 24 and 39. So they're not just all laying on their mom and dad's couch, Some millennials are grown people. The oldest millennial will turn 39 this year. Okay. And so I really focus on, again, making sure that they are developing, especially when it comes to their careers, and, just helping to navigate through life. And how I came into this line of business is I spent about 15 years in corporate America. I was just very fortunate that I excelled really early. I became a vice president of a publicly traded company when I was 27 years old. I was completely unprepared. I had no leadership skills, no management training, no nothing. But I also was a Black woman and the youngest president. So spotlight was all on me. And so, so I knew I had to sink or swim, right? So I just really became almost obsessed with what it meant to be quote unquote successful. I read books, I read blogs. I'm a 40, so that was a little bit before podcasts was popular, but I just did everything I could to learn how people were successful. And so now I use everything that I learned, and I help others, especially younger leaders, focus on that. So I'm no longer in corporate America. I freed myself of that. And now I use my skill set and my passion to try to, again, help millennials be the best versions of themselves.
When was that you freed yourself?
Well, it's funny you asked that.
When was that you broke the chains?
It's funny. I broke it twice. So in 2015, I launched my own business. Had it for 5 years, a business consulting business. And then I went back to corporate America. And then as of this past Friday, July 31st was my official last day ever working in corporate America.
Wow. Congratulations on that. Yo, celebrations on, I wish I would have known. Like,
right. Where's the champagne? Let's celebrate.
I know, right? We would have definitely popped the bottle to that. I think every great entrepreneur, I won't say everyone, but most of them have had some sort of experience with corporate America, which I always preface by saying there's nothing wrong with it. If you're listening and you're working with corporate America, you're not a bozo because you have a 9 to 5. That's not what that means. I'm the king of
entrepreneurship isn't for everybody.
It ain't for everybody. I'm the king of damn, I'm broke. Where can I go work real quick for 4 months, you know what I mean, to get my bag up and invest into my business. So, there's nothing wrong with the 9 to 5. But if you are entrepreneur minded, like myself and Arika here, it is very difficult to be in corporate America it's like being in a relationship when you want to be single. Or
that is a great way to put it.
you know what I mean? Or like living at your mama house when you don't like your mom. Like it's difficult. And even though we all know like a relationship might be good or a job might be good, if it ain't for you, it just ain't for you. And I know that feeling all too well of like, like you're counting every minute, understanding that you can leverage or capitalize on that minute differently than clocking in and sitting at somebody's desk.
Well, and for me, what I realized in this last stint and with everything happening right now with the pandemic and quarantining is I was just working these crazy hours, like 16, 18 hours. And I just realized like, if I'm going to work like that, that's going to be a hustle I do for myself. I can't spend 16, 18 hours working on someone else's business. For me personally. So that was my sort of, sign that I needed to just go ahead and fully, for the last time, cut the ties and just focus on what I know that I'm passionate about. And I feel fortunate to know what my passion is because people spend their whole lives trying to figure that part out.
Absolutely. So let's talk about your book real quick. You're a fellow author, which always gets me hyped because I remember writing my first book and it was like, it's my only book. I got a second one, but it ain't released or finished. I'm on chapter 1. It's all right here. But you have a book and it's called The Millennials Playbook for Adulting, right?
Yes.
So tell us about that book. Where can we find it? And like, if I buy it, what am I getting out of it?
Okay, so the book I wrote because people always came to me for advice. I was always getting people asking me, can you read my resume? I have an interview coming up. I'm going to a networking event. What do I do? How do I keep this job? How do I, really be a high performer? All of these things. And so I decided that, what, I'm going to put it all in just a book, a playbook. I'm a sports person. So I was like, let me just make the playbook, right? So that you can just open it up and find the chapter and you can see the plays.
Yeah.
And the book is meant to be, again, actionable. So it's not just these high pie in the sky, like work hard and, things come to you. It's very actionable. Like, these are the 5 things you need to do. Here are the 5 people that you need to Google, call. Here's how you set up a morning routine. Here's what I do. So it's very specific. It's very tactical. So again, just like a playbook would be. And I cover, a range of topics. Some focus again on your career, but also I cover mental health, physical health, finances, all of those types of things. How to, just know what's going on in the world. I tell you what podcasts you should be checking out, what books that you should be reading, all of those types of things. And I do it in a way that to me is my personality, where I try to mix a good bit of, just again, actionable items, but it's humorous. I give a lot of personal stories that I've experienced over the years. And then I give a lot of quotes. I live by quotes. So I quote everyone in the book from Nicki Minaj to Benjamin Franklin. So it's a good mix. It's a quick read, and you don't have to be a millennial to read it. I have had people, my grandmother read it and said she loved it. She wanted to know how to set up a LinkedIn profile. So,
right.
It's just meant to be something you can read and you feel like, all right, I have a little bit of a better handle on adulting.
Now, where can people get it?
You can get it on my website, arikapierce.com. Again, Arika with an A and a K, Arika. Or you can get it on Amazon. So you can do the one click and get it on Amazon. You can also get the free version of the audiobook by going to my website and signing up. And you can just download the audio version, all the chapters, listen to it on your phone while you're, doing some stuff in the background.
Yeah, that's great because honestly, like millennials, including myself, like we need stuff in a playbook, right? Yep. We're not like the conceptual generation where it's like you could be like, like the generation before us was like work hard, like put yourself up by your bootstraps, and it's like, all right, well, what does that mean? Because you know what I mean? Like I feel like mom, dad, like our life was kind of whack, and I want a better life, and the bootstrap thing ain't like give me the actual plays. And in school they're not teaching the actual plays.
No.
We learn photosynthesis and math and all that, but like again, mental health, like major. Forget about taxes and real estate, which is like that'd be my lane. Like they don't teach this in schools, but we don't even really tap into everything you just said. Mindset. I'm a sports person as well, so I know the power of like really believing in yourself, which I think is why I was able to be successful as an entrepreneur, was because I played sports and can turn something not real or not physical, like in this case my terrible basketball game, to something real and physical, which ended up me being a professional basketball player by the grace of God, right? So I'm saying all that to say, like, from a consulting perspective, what's your approach normally? Like, I tried, you're an entrepreneur, so you be trying stuff sometimes. So I tried, I tried consulting a little bit, and what I found was everyone that I still do a little bit, but it's very specific. But everyone that I was talking to, they ended up spending most of their hours essentially being motivated, right? Or being reminded that it ain't as hard as their mind is telling them that it is.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. That ended up being like the majority of what I didn't even really get into real strategy. Right. So for you, what's really like your niche or like your, like your thing in regards to your consulting?
So it's a couple different things. So I do some one-on-one coaching and consulting. I prefer to do a minimum of a 6-week engagement, and that for the very reason that you just said it, because sometimes starting out, people just have to get into that mindset. And so that might take 1 or 2 sessions. And then after that, we can start to really dig into, okay, what are the things that you're trying to achieve? And then, we can have weekly sessions focused on that. I always give homework, in between sessions. And part of that, again, it's going back to that mindset, because you want people to stay in that realm of thinking about how do I move myself from point A to point B to point C. And people can get overwhelmed by just trying to, again, just figure out what they're trying to do. And they need some exercises. Sometimes they need some time to think through it. Sometimes I have them go and interview people in their inner circles or outer circles. It all just varies. But, everything I do is also customized. I don't do any cookie cutter work, because each of us is one of one. So, I really make sure I'm giving someone the exact tools and tactics that will help them. Most of the time it's focused primarily on career growth. I work with a lot of people who are either trying to figure out a career transition. I'm working with someone right now, for example, she is an entrepreneur. So we're working through how to build out her brand, how to create her brand, how to set her up for success. Because right now,
the fun part.
Right. Well, she just wants to be popping,
Right. That's the fun part right
there. She literally is like, I just want to be popping. She's a fashion stylist. And so you see all of those influencers on Instagram and they're getting all of these, deals. So she wants to go from from A to I'm just kind of, out here doing my own thing to being, having 200K followers and getting these deals. So there's a lot of work that has to happen in between. And focus. And sometimes people just need help with things such as how to manage my time, especially when you're an entrepreneur, or if you're working full-time and you're doing the side hustle until you can become a full-time entrepreneur. That right there is, that's a
challenge. You can write a book on that in itself.
Right.
That's a challenge in itself.
Exactly. So those are the types of things that I work with people. But as I always say, there's no such thing as an overnight success. So I can't work with someone for an hour and all of a sudden they're going to hang up there, and be like, oh, okay, I have all of the keys. I mean, I say that about LeBron, to give you a basketball example. He doesn't stop practicing during the off season, So you have to keep it going. It's an ongoing, constant, commitment to wanting to be the best version of yourself.
That's awesome. And it's funny that you said you were a sports person, because I have in my usual questions, because we be having so many men on here. I'm terrible. I'm telling you, like, for real, this is like an eye opener. We be having so many men on here. I'll be like, who's your favorite? It'd be bad, but who's your favorite rapper? Who's your favorite, who's your favorite athlete? I don't ask the women like who your favorite athlete is, and it's like,
you got it. It's funny because last week I have a podcast too, and I did an interview with a guy named Malcolm Lemons. He just wrote this really great book about personal branding focused on athletes. He's a former professional athlete as well. And so when we were on it, we were talking about his book, but then I was just so excited to talk sports with somebody, because I was like, what do you think about the bubble and all? And I'm like, hold up, wait, let's get back to the podcast, to your book. I was like, I just been, we haven't had sports in so long that you get excited to just talk about it right now.
Did you play sports?
I did. I played basketball in high school. I'm from Louisiana though, so we just grow up with sports, especially football.
Yeah.
Life, I was gonna say. So, yeah.
Is football your favorite sport, or is it basketball?
Actually, it's football and Formula One racing are my two favorite sports.
What even is Formula One racing? What is?
So do you know Lewis Hamilton? You don't know Lewis
Yeah,
Hamilton?
yes.
Okay.
So that's which kind of car is that? I know it's different cars.
Yeah, so this is not NASCAR or Indy. These are the international races that happen. So
I understood.
Yeah, the Formula One car. So like,
if y'all can't see, I'm scratching my head. I learned something new. I know that like some of the people, and I know they wear like the jumpsuits, but like you
yeah,
I don't know what they racing. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
that's really cool.
So, but football, I'm a Saints fan for football, but a little worried about what we're going to do this season.
Ain't no football happened. I just recorded an hour-long, it was supposed to be 20 minutes. I just recorded an hour-long podcast with, my partner with my other sports podcast from my other company. And we were supposed to be talking about the bubble. We ended up talking about football and the kneeling and all that. But I don't think football is happening. My good friend coaches at Rutgers, and this is how I'm in my own basketball bubble. So I know a little football. I know something. Like I know Odell Beckham and like
Well,
Ezekiel
LSU,
Elliott.
I went to LSU, so Odell.
Like I know like the big names and like the good teams. So I asked him, I'm like, yo, how many players are on a football team? Because like they're coaching, but they keep getting shut down because people keep getting the virus. He's like 137. I'm like, yo, shut it down, bro. You got 137 kids on the count. Like that's. Like, shut it down. I didn't realize football had a team so big, but I don't see a season necessarily.
Well, unless they do a bubble. I mean, I think what the NBA has done is really impressive. I mean, you look what happened with baseball. The plan lasted 4 days. So, before they started getting positive tests. And so far, that bubble, I mean, it's had a few cracks in it, but.
Now, the bubble is definitely impressive. Like, that's literally what we just talked about for a whole hour, was how impressed we are with the bubble. And then even the way they present it to us in regards to the games is really cool. You just really feel like you're there, kind of. It's just a definitely more personal feel. But I wanted to ask you, right? So this is my favorite question to ask because my favorite thing to do on my whiteboard.
Okay.
Where do you see yourself in your business in 5 years? And I don't mean like I'm going to be making $1 million in 5 years, but like literally the whole structure of like what will your business be doing? Will it be doing the same thing it is now? And you want to scale? Like, how do you want to scale? Give us your plan in obviously a condensed version.
Okay, sure. So what I would like to be in 5 years is a household name when it comes to any topics related to millennials. So if when you go on today's show and they say, next up is our millennial expert, you will know because it's going to be Arika Pierce, right? So that's how I want to be viewed because, millennials are now the largest generation. They're bigger than baby boomers. They are taking over. And so as I always tell people that, your millennials are not your leaders of tomorrow. They're your leaders of today. And so there's so many things, when you think about the focus on it from even a sports perspective, when you think about it from a retail perspective, a business perspective, I mean, everything, there's so much buzz about how do we make sure that we cater to, we understand millennials. Corporations, are trying to figure out how they can understand them from both being employees to being leaders, having them on boards, all of those types of things. So I want to be involved in those, discussions and help guide brands and help guide, just different industries as they figure out how they want to navigate and really embrace this, which is now, again, the largest generation. And then also, as a Black woman, I want to also be, leveraged for my own personal corporate experience. I want to be sitting on boards. I want to be having, conversations about diversity and inclusion that aren't just sort of, the words on websites, but are really truly based on my own experiences of living and working through corporate America.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good segue. You threw me an alley-oop because that was my next question I was going to follow up with was, just give us some experiences, because I know there are some that you've had and that you anticipate on the way to that journey of you being a household name that, may have been an obstacle because you are, like I can relate to you're Black, right? But then I can't relate to you. I can't relate to you being a woman. And I definitely 100% can't relate to you being a Black woman in that. I won't even say corporate America. I'm gonna just say in the business space, it's hard. I see it's hard. I see it like from like being Black and obviously having a place in my heart for Black women, but even just being if you're a fly on the wall, it's very obvious that Black women have a different experience in the business world than anybody else, right? So give us a little bit of insight on that experience. You can give us the bad and the good, right? Because I'm sure it's not all bad, but I know it does become difficult at times.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I would say the number one thing is lack of mentors, frankly, that look like you. I grew up in a middle-class family, but yet I did not really have anyone that had ever kind of climbed the corporate ladder. My parents both worked for the government. My family members all sort of, had, I would say, safe jobs. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but, it just wasn't, I just didn't have someone that I could go to and say, oh, wow, they just asked me to come present something at the board meeting or go to a board dinner. What does that look like? What should I do? And so, I did have other mentors. I mean, some of my greatest mentors actually have been white men and some of my greatest advocates. But when I look at who other Black women where you can have relatable experiences, honestly, that slim. Very, very, very slim. And so that becomes a challenge because there were situations. I mean, one of the things I remember very specifically, this is when I had just become a vice president in the company, and myself and the CEO went to a meeting with another company, a very large company. We were looking at doing a partnership. So we would go to their office, we go into the boardroom, and I'm sitting next to the CEO. And so in walks the other people for the meeting, all white men, older white men, and they come around and they give everyone a business card but me. And so their assumption is that I'm there to, kind of take the notes or go get the coffee or do whatever. And so, that was one of the first times where, because again, I'm young, I'm, 28, 29.
Yeah, you fighting 3D. You got the Black women and young.
Right. Well, and then also to be completely honest with you, it hits your confidence. I mean, I would say one of the things that has helped me so much in the past few years is just becoming much more comfortable in my skin. Yeah. Because when situations like that happen, you're like,
because you can't change your age or your skin color or your gender. I mean, you can, but you can't. You know what I mean? It's so from a confidence, that's the stuff that hurt the worst. Like you.
Right. Yeah. Right. Well, and then, I had a lot of situations too. Like I live in DC. I worked a lot in the government relations, the politicals, arena. And so I would have to go to like these dinners. Like I can remember going to this one dinner. I think it was a Republican fundraiser, and it was like upstairs in a private room of a restaurant. And I was just like, oh my God, I don't want, like, what am I going to talk about?
Yes.
these like seriously older white men. We're talking, and also like the Good Old Boy Network. And so that was one of the things too. I mean, to be honest with you, one of the assets that I do have is my love of sports, because that is a common, sort of area you can connect with. But again, it really had to go back to that confidence and really starting to believe if I'm at the table, I have a right to be at the table, and I'm going to have a voice, and I'm going to not feel, apprehensive or scared to speak up. And that took time. That did not happen overnight. But that's some of the things too. I mean, I have a special sweet spot in my heart for, young Black women who are now in corporate America, who, I kind of were the little bit younger version of me. I'm not that old, but that, because again, I didn't have those mentors. And so I try to, help them and really try to, again, encourage them. The only downside, I would say, of me leaving corporate America, and this is the only thing I battle with, is that we don't have enough of us. And so if we all leave to go become, entrepreneurs, then we don't get heard.
Then we don't have representation. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You mentioned having a voice. So just to piggyback off that, every time I speak to a person of color, a Black person, anytime, I always like to get their opinion or insight on everything that's going on in the country, because I think it's important for every time either of us have a platform, we speak on it. Anytime that any of us have a platform, we express how we feel to one another, to avoid the obvious that always happens, right? Clashing within the community of opinions of everything that's going on and blah, blah, blah. I'm saying all that to say, we talked about the bubble. Another thing that I love the NBA did is, I love it and I hate it. The NBA did a great job of being intentional, of bringing awareness to, I don't want to say the Black Lives Matter movement because it's bigger than a singular movement, but again, the social injustices that occur in the country, and the essentially the genocide of Black people over the last however many years you want to say, 400 years, right? In whatever way possible, whether it's mass incarceration, whether it's police killings, and even, I hate this term, but like black on black crime, whatever you want to, however you want to entitle it, right? So with all that being said, how do you feel about the display of protest and kneeling or not kneeling in the bubble that you've seen in the last 2 weeks of gameplay? I'll give my opinion first, just because I'm talking already, right? A little bit of me felt like it was almost too commercialized, normalized, and watered down, especially since the kneeling thing, was started by Cap 4 years ago, and nobody was kneeling when it was frowned upon to kneel, and now it's like we're all locking arms and kneeling. So I felt a little funny about that. It didn't hit the same as some would say, but that's my opinion, and I'm really curious, right, to hear other Black people's opinions. So how did you feel about just the whole display from players in the NBA as an organization?
So I would agree with that. I mean, I think, again, going back to years ago, it's funny because I was watching a Kaepernick interview that he did, I think maybe after the first or second time that he kneeled. And you would have thought that this was 2020, but it was like 2016, I guess, or about that time frame. And so because he was breaking it all down, why he was doing it, and what the significance was for him, and just because of course people were saying it was disrespectful and all these types of things.
Right.
So I think he understood why he was kneeling, right, and he did it for a reason. I don't think everybody now who is kneeling understands why they're doing it. They're doing it because it's, again, you don't want to be an outlier, right? You don't want to stand out. And so, frankly, the one guy, I'll be honest, I didn't click the article.
Jonathan Isaac on the Magic, he didn't kneel. He didn't wear the Black Lives Matter shirt.
Right. So it's just one of those things where I believe if you believe it, like if you've been someone like LeBron is another one, like he's been active in this a long time. I mean, ever since, well, not ever since, but especially back when, that sports reporter said, he and Kevin Durant
shut up and dribble.
I mean, I think they have really taken seriously their responsibility in terms of their influence and their role to, really bring these issues to the forefront. But I think some people are just like, I'm just going to kneel because I'm just trying to outplay. So, which of course is also, it's a little bit unfortunate. However, I do think that the more awareness we can continue to bring to this issue is the bigger, goal. I'll be honest, like I said, I do watch car racing. So like even NASCAR did like this whole video and stuff with all the, redneck players. I mean, drivers like saying, Black Lives Matter. And I'm like, do they really? So some of it is definitely just commercialized. There's no doubt about it. I mean, and that's not just in sports. That's across the
board. Yep.
Where you saw everybody,
social media, everything.
Yeah. Everybody now had these statements and wanted to celebrate Juneteenth when they had never even heard of Juneteenth before this year. So we're gonna see
next year if they keep that same energy.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and that is, to me, that is the true test, and that is our responsibility. I believe, especially as Black people, as African Americans, is to hold these brands accountable to what they are saying they are going to do, because a lot of it is smoke and mirrors. There's no doubt about it. But we have to be the ones that do truly believe in it. I'm a Peloton owner and rider, and I have been highly impressed about not just what they've said, but how they have turned over their platform to their instructors to literally go inside the households of people who probably have never had a Black person inside of their house before, besides these riders, and talk to them. I mean, I was on an Alex Toussaint ride recently, and I'm sure some of the people were shocked to hear the things that were coming out of his mouth, and the emotion that he was feeling. And so to me, like, that's a great way. They have really leveraged their platform to give, just some, just a voice to people who, normally wouldn't listen to us.
Wow, that's great insight. I didn't know. I'm about to go get a Peloton now.
Well, they're on back order. It's hard to get them now.
Well, when they get them in stock, they owe you a check, right? So last couple questions, and these are gonna be a little more light. I know that was a more heavy topic, right? But I know you listen to podcasts often. We're not gonna shout no other podcast on here, but no, I'm kidding. But music, right? Do you feel like music? Do you still listen to music to get yourself going, or do you feel like it's like poison to the business person's mind?
Oh, no, absolutely. I listen to a lot of music. I mean, I like information. I mean, I'm an information junkie, but sometimes I just need to, just
be gangster in my car for a second.
Yeah.
Or be fake creative. I'll be listening to like Frank Ocean when I want to be fake creative and get out there. But then I'll go like Pop Smoke when I want to, what I mean? When somebody owe me money, I'll put on Pop Smoke.
Look, there you go. So I think, we all have our, our different music personalities. So you just kind of have to ride it to some, to however you want to motivate. Like, I like Megan Thee Stallion, and my new song I like is, I'm probably going to say her name, Mulatto and Salt Tea, Sweet Tea. I don't know how to say her name.
Sweetie.
Sweetie.
We look crazy right now. I can't remember. I don't know if I can put this online. They're gonna chew us up.
I know.
I only know how to read it. If I read it in my head, I'm saying it right because I see it on IG.
Exactly.
I never listen. I don't know.
It is a very explicit and inappropriate song, but I love it, and it gives me motivation. So yeah.
I was calling Quavo for so long. This was like years ago. I was young too. I was young and hip still. Like, not that I'm not young and hip now, but I was like 24, still butchering his name. I don't be knowing. But I appreciate you having coming on today. One more time, where can everybody find you? IG, website, all of that.
Yeah, so I'm primarily on IG. It's at the Millennial Boardroom. So step into the boardroom and come hang out with me.
I'm gonna be honest, spell that just like you did for me, because I put in millennial with one N.
Yes.
Not understanding that millennial is two N's, y'all. It's two.
Yes. Millennial has two N's, so it's two L's, two N. So MILLENNIAL. So it's the Millennial Boardroom is where you can find me on IG or on my website, which is arikapierce.com. So definitely hit me up, or my podcast too. I have to have you on my podcast.
We can shout yours up.
Okay, the Millennial Boardroom Podcast. The
Millennial Boardroom Podcast. I'm gonna actually subscribe right now. Millennial Boardroom Podcast. Once again, appreciate you so much for coming on. It was a great conversation. I'm going to honor my word and have more women on here.
And ask them sports. Don't ask them, just.
Yeah, I'm gonna dig into the sport. I don't even like getting into sports on this podcast anyway. But
I was gonna say that I want to come on the other podcast, the sports podcast. So.
I'll have you on there for sure, because I think over there we definitely only had one woman on that podcast ever.
Well,
so
I have a lot of things to say, since I've all been, been having to hold back for 4 months, so I have a lot to say.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much, and I wish you the best of luck on your journey. And again, congrats on freeing yourself from the bondage of corporate America. No, I'm playing. But again, thank you so much. Everyone, don't forget to follow Arika Pierce. That's Arika with an A and a K, just so y'all know how dope her name spelling is. And her IG is The Millennial Boardroom. 2 L's, 2 N's, The Millennial Boardroom. And the website one more time?
It's arikapierce.com. So
arikapierce.com.
A and a K. I'll let my parents know how dope it is.
Thank you so much, Arika, and we'll chat later.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.